Welcome all. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much to Kevin Thobias for giving us this part of his time, for allowing us to come here. We are really grateful for that. We are really appreciated, and it's a honor for us. I know that what we are going to discuss here and to talk about here will serve everyone watching this interview, because one thing I really believe is that from everything we do in life, we have to build a legacy and to leave a legacy for all the people around, and somehow to build a better world. So Kevin, thank you very much. How do you feel?
Good.
Good?
Feeling good.
Okay, so let's go straight to the point.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. So Kevin, so first of all, I would like to ask you, who is Kevin Thobias, and how do you define yourself?
I'm an individual from the Homo sapiens family. That's about it. I don't really think too much about myself or what sets me apart. I just do what I need to do and go day by day.
Perfect. So you, in terms of on the definition of yourself, you don't go deep as much, because you think identity is something that is not necessary for our lives, or?
I try to take a less emotional approach. So that means not thinking too much about yourself or your legacy or any of those things. I just see myself as a character in a video game, and you just do everything to the best of your ability. So when you take that approach of having less emotion involved, I think you're much more likely to succeed in achieving your goals.
Okay, so kind of being more rational and less emotional.
Yes. And most people and most public speakers, all these individuals they actually do the opposite. All these motivational speakers, inspirational videos, they try to motivate you instead of taking the rational approach. And I think that's actually more detrimental to those people that watch these videos.
Yeah. There's Andrew Tate says that he doesn't believe in motivation, but in discipline instead.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because motivation is extremely short term. It's not about what you do when you're pumped up and you're listening to your favorite song. It's more about what you do when you're not motivated, you're sick and you're tired, you don't know what you do, what to do that day, and there's a lot of forces against you, and you still do what you have to do.
Perfect. Okay, this is a question that I think most of speakers also talk about, but I think it is really good to address it with you, because to most of our society, you're seen as a successful person. So in that order, how do you define success? And the second point would be like, what is a way to achieve it? That definition of success for you.
I suppose the universal meaning to success is simply achieving what you want to achieve. But in general, most people just, they see money as success. So in that sense, I suppose I am successful. But I think most people do need to really think deeply about what defines success for them. For me, it never was money, in a sense of how much I've accumulated, but rather just to have that financial freedom so I can do whatever I want to with my time, which is usually just pretty boring on the computer, just reading, just trying to solve problems, like general curiosity, just solving that general curiosity that's always wandering in my head. And that's all I ever wish for. So even with all this money I've accumulated, I don't think much has really changed. I try to keep my baseline for happiness extremely low. I don't care about traveling or any of those things. I really don't even care about luxury items. I just happen to buy them, but if they all disappeared, I wouldn't care.
Perfect. So with that, one can conclude that you were or you are actually seeking for freedom, and money was a vehicle to find that freedom.
Correct. There's two ways to achieve that. One is money, and the other is doing what you want to do and getting paid for it. So either of those routes work. I just happen to select that route of accumulating money so I can do whatever I want to do.
Perfect. So, but at the end of the day, the vehicle, which we can say is the money. What do you think about this? We as a society, we've created a system, right? And in that system, we've stated that money is let's say it's a good that gives you power, right? And that power could be freedom, buying goods, items, position, even love sometimes. So in that order, do you think that as a society we have imposed that money is an actual vehicle?
Yeah, in our current society, it's real in a sense that, it's fictitious, but it is real in a sense that in our current society, we can access everything you said. But if we were stranded on an island, that wealth that we've accumulated would be meaningless. So in our current society, it does have value. I don't know for how much longer, with how much the government continues to print their own money and inflate the current value. So I don't know how much longer like the government currency will be of value. But yes, it gets you access to a lot of things that people otherwise wouldn't. Healthcare, just about everything.
Perfect. Yeah. Somehow it's if we were into an island where nobody is, it'll be another system, right?
Correct.
Our current system is ruled by the money. Let's say there are a lot of people who is trying to go against that system, whereas other people play with the rules of that system, right? Of course, you're a person who have played well with under those rules, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's always going to be some sort of hierarchy. So the people that want to remove money as that form of hierarchy, they essentially want to create their own system where they would be at the top of that chain. I see it more so as just playing within the framework, the current set of rules. So there's always going to be people that complain, and they generally tend to not have as much success. So I would always recommend just playing within the current framework of rules and figuring out how to make the most amount of money with the least amount of work.
Perfect. According to Jordan Peterson, a person's drive in life is deeply related with their early experiences in life and in their childhood, in their teenaging, and so on. So, for example, a person pursuing a CEO career, it probably might have been a person who didn't have enough attention when he or she was a child or a teenage. So he may be pursuing visibility and to get into consideration from the society to him because of that lacking of attention. Or probably that same person pursuing to be a CEO might have been a person who was taught to believe in himself, to be a winner, to pursue always to be on the top. So he's driven to be in the top, right? So he may be pursuing that CEO career. So basically, we all have a drive in our life to do what we do and to achieve what we are pursuing to achieve or what we have achieved already, right? So in that sense, what is your drive for what you actually have achieved until now, and of course for what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So one thing, I don't think the term CEO itself equates to success. I think it's actually, in some cases, quite the opposite. Most of the people that call themselves a CEO, they actually, they've run failed businesses or they haven't had that financial success. A lot of people that are wealthy are not CEOs. They simply invest in other businesses, or they could be the number two. So I don't think the term CEO itself carries much weight at all in society.
Let me just clarify something real quick. The term CEO here, for example, was just to show like a way of being on top, right? You can call it a CEO, entrepreneur, or business owner, president of the country. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
See, it's just the,
so you
the
just
figure,
to
right?
top of the economic.
Exactly.
Okay, so my intention or my objective from the beginning was never to climb to the top 0.1% or whatever I am. It was never, that was never my objective. Like I said, my only objective was to get that financial freedom so I could spend all my days doing whatever I want. So that is still my primary driver. It just, every single day I just try to solve a lot of curiosity in my mind, a lot of questions that I have, and I just read a lot. Yeah, so I don't think I have the standard approach of, hey, I'm intentionally trying to climb up the ladder.
Okay, gotcha. So we go back like to the prior questions, which we can conclude that your drive or main drive was or is freedom.
Yes. So now that I've achieved that financial freedom, my goal is still to just resolve curiosity, and sometimes that results in me starting some sort of business or idea, putting it to test on the market. I'm a strong proponent of the free market, so I do put my ideas out there. Some of them work, some of them don't, but I don't necessarily do it for money at this stage.
Perfect. As we were saying before, the pursuit of freedom, we find that money as a vehicle for that freedom. So probably many people watching this, they will identify with it, right? So based on that, what are the key points for a person to become a millionaire?
I think in general, it's always just about figuring out how to make the most amount of money with the least amount of effort. Because you always see a lot of people working hard, grinding, and that is definitely a variable. But before you build that hustler mentality of working 18 hours a day, first you have to figure out what is the path of least resistance where you can make the most amount of money with the least amount of effort. Because you could easily get into that hustler mentality and work 18 hours a day, but if you're just breaking rocks on the side of the road for 18 hours a day, you'll never achieve that wealth you want to obtain. So first and foremost, before everything, you have to figure out the path of least resistance.
Yeah. So now, by that path, we can, let's say that path is a business, right? So, for example, in your case, how did you figure it out? What your business, your business that took you to the success you have right now? How do you figure out that path?
So I dabbled in a lot of different business ideas and ventures, but eventually I ran across Amazon. And Amazon was still an emerging website. And I was able to get in early where a lot of my products, with the amount of money I had saved up, which is not a lot compared to what large businesses have access to nearly unlimited capital. So with that avenue I took, Amazon, it was in the very early infant stage. So I was able to expand upon my products and grow my businesses. And then that's when I learned that fundamental principle of doing the least amount of work that makes you the most amount of money. And from there, we were given multiple opportunities. So some of our products, we could have taken the approach of focusing on retail space and getting into stores. So when I sold supplements, I could have put it into GNC and other supplement physical stores. But I decided not to because it would go against that philosophy, right? You're doing a lot of work for very little money. So I just decided to expand my online business where Amazon handled 95% of all the heavy lifting and the work. So it was much more profitable and easier to scale. Whereas a lot of my competitors, they would start shifting and they thought it was more prestigious to get into these retail stores. So they pursued that route while I just focused on, I doubled down on my strategies on Amazon and how to grow even faster.
Perfect. You've mentioned two key points that I think that they are really important.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is early, like arriving early to the party, whichever the party is. And number two, focus, right?
Yeah.
Would you add a third one to it?
No, that's pretty much it. The focus / work hard. I can't give any advice because I have a genuine curiosity for it. So I don't think anyone can outwork me because I don't have any family or friends or anything. So I can easily put in 18 hours a day into a business. And I have that genuine curiosity, so I want to. Whereas other people, if you see it as a job and you don't have that genuine curiosity, you could still work 18 hours a day, but you're going to hate it. So on that part, I can't really give any advice. You either like it or you don't. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, with that genuine curiosity, you reminded me of something, and is the framework, the time framework, right? Like for people, there is a time framework which is Monday to Friday, and Saturday and Sunday is to work, right? And one thing I've seen from you, and which I admire from you, is that for you there is no time framework, right? No, there is no frame, right?
Correct.
You work either if it is Sunday, Saturday, or Monday, or if it is evening, or do you think is that a byproduct of that genuine curiosity?
Yeah. So a lot of my curiosity is actually aimed at social norms and why people follow these, what I find to be very stupid social norms, such as birthdays and treating birthdays as accomplishments, like this whole idea of celebrating a birthday. Typically people celebrate achievements or accomplishments, but can you really say it's an accomplishment for merely existing? I don't think so, when 99% of the population will accomplish that thing. So yeah, social norms, celebrations, all these repetitive holidays that we blindly celebrate, are usually just an excuse to not have to work. So I don't view time, I do value time, but I don't see it in the same way as, oh, it's a weekend or it's daytime or nighttime. I just see time as just more or less infinitely passing. So yeah, I don't have that same mindset or same perspective in terms of time. I don't separate nighttime, daytime, or weekends and weekdays.
Perfect. When people get to know Kevin Thobias, people usually ask, "Oh, what does he do for a living?" Right? Meaning, like, what his work or what is his source of income. But for example, when one have the opportunity to work next to you, like as I have, one notice that the key point is not actually what you do for a living, but it's a mindset, right? It's a thinking frame which makes you a high income person, right? So I usually give this example. If you put Kevin Thobias to buy shoes, he'll be successful. If you put Kevin Thobias to build planes, he will be successful. I mean, whichever work you put him, because it's not what he does, but the way he thinks that makes him a high income person. So in that order, how do you define your thinking frame?
Yeah, I just try to, first and foremost, I always take that first principles approach, just asking why something is. That I firmly believe in causality, so if something is a certain way, it's because of something else. Everything in life links back to a prior reason for it being the way it is. So I just apply a lot of critical thinking on why things are the way they are and how you can improve it, and generally just try to find inefficiencies in society and create those efficiencies. So yeah, that's the general framework I use for everything in life.
Perfect. One thing regarding your thinking frame, many people who is watching us and who is entrepreneur and who is trying to start a successful career in business, they all, including myself, we have to deal with frustration. You know, when things don't go our way, right? Probably you've gone through some moments when you were starting that journey where things didn't go the way you wanted to. So regarding that thinking frame, how do you approach, for example, those frustration moments or those moments where things are not working out properly?
This is something I'm working on too, so I'm probably not the best to give advice on it, but if I were to give advice, I'd say try to take a more unemotional approach. And ultimately, I think most ideas will fail, but it's about finding the winners. So if you follow Elon Musk's companies, although all the companies themselves, every single company has been successful, most of the ideas that they try, they reverse them shortly after because it doesn't work. But they go through and try so many different variations within that company that they eventually have success. So I think generally, if you were to enter business, creating that minimum viable product where you can try and sell something before you invest a lot of money. So if you have an idea for a new product, instead of going out and making that product, make a website saying you're going to sell whatever you're going to sell, and then run some ads and see if people buy the product before you go out and invest most of your money trying to make that product. So that's a general, really good advice I think I could give to people starting where they have limited capital and they can't afford to lose all their money. Just try to figure out if your idea will actually sell in the market profitably before you try to go and make it.
Perfect. In our society, there is a discussion that has been going on for years, I guess, and it's the discussion between happiness and money, right? And that there is a relationship between the two of them, right? So you find people stating that money doesn't buy happiness, and other ones who will say the other way around, right? So basically the question is, what do you think of that relationship?
Well, unless you've experienced both, it's hard to formulate an opinion. So most of the people that do say money buys happiness, I think they've never actually experienced it. So I don't know how they can formulate that opinion. But in some sense it can, if you are more materialistic or financial freedom. When you achieve that financial freedom to that level, it has brought me more happiness. But after that level, has it brought any happiness? For me, definitely no. I don't view happiness as a static state of being. Everyone experiences happiness. Everyone experiences sadness. It's just something that everyone goes through. So I think we need to put less emphasis and importance on achieving happiness, and instead actually just experiencing all the emotions as we experience them. And one simple solution for increasing your happiness is by lowering your baseline for happiness. So if you lower your baseline to be happy, then you'll just be happy more often.
But yeah, like the kids.
Yes. So I think the problem is the people that desire money so badly and they don't achieve it, they've set such high expectations and they think so highly of themselves or whatever it is that they can't achieve. They truly think that they need the money to achieve that happiness. And they're usually not aware of that hedonic treadmill where once you buy an exotic car, then 2 weeks later or maybe 2 months later, it's the same as whatever you had previously. And then you create new goals. So it's an endless cycle.
And in terms of that, I'll go with this other question in terms of that happiness is not an static state of the being, but rather is a consequence of some achievings in your life. But then the peak starts going down, you go into a valley, and then you do another thing. We are a really emotional persons or beings as human as we are. So that I related with this question also. So in one interview that Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment was doing to Andrew Tate, so they were talking about Donald Trump. So Patrick asked Tate, why do you think that despite Donald Trump is such a powerful man, one of the richest person in the world, really powerful with position, wealth, all the stuff, everything he can have in life, why is he running to be the president of the most powerful nation in the world? So why is he seeking more power if he has way more enough? A regular person can say he has way more than enough. So why is he trying to achieve more, right? So his answer was the game. Is the game, right? You get into a point that power doesn't matter, money doesn't matter, goods or whatever item you can have, luxury, doesn't matter. What matters is the game, right? And somehow that game is what drives more successful people in their life and in the business, right? So based on that, what do you think that game is, right? And if you agree with it, if it applies to you, and if it does, what do you think that game is?
Yeah, I think it applies to everybody because we're always trying to strive for more, no matter what. I've never really met somebody without any goals or at least striving to become better. Not saying that they accomplish it, but everyone is always to some level ambitious or has some certain goals. So once you achieve those goals, what do? You create new goals. So that's just an endless cycle. It's applicable to every single person, no matter what. It could be financial, it could be power, it could be fame. For me, it's curiosity. If I solve something in my head, then okay, let's move on to the next question. So it is an endless cycle, more or less, for everybody.
Okay, so to clarify, do you define the game like the game is to achieve goals?
Yes.
To make it like the more concrete, the most concrete possible?
Yeah. Well, think about your goals you've achieved, right? After you've achieved them, what do? You set new goals.
Okay.
That's what life is. So it'll just be an endless cycle of new goals.
Okay.
Nobody will ever be stagnant, no matter what.
Okay, gotcha. So the game is to achieve goals. If you climb the mountain, then find a bigger mountain.
Correct.
And when you climb that bigger mountain, find a way bigger mountain.
Correct.
Gotcha. So that's the game. Okay, and I want to relate this question to the prior one. So at the end of the day, if we are to talk about happiness,
yeah,
successful people find happiness within the game, playing the game.
I don't think happiness is ever just a static state. It's just going to be fluid. And I think the only difference is I think depressed people put more emphasis on the sad moments they experience. And they kind of just, depressed people still experience happiness, but they put more emphasis on the sadness. So I think it's just a state of, it's a fluid, emotions are fluid. So you're constantly changing between different sets of emotions. No one has ever been 24 hours with only one set of emotion. So I think it's again just about putting less emphasis on how you feel and just achieving whatever you set yourself to achieve.
Perfect. Understand that. Yep. I wanted to change the word happiness and put instead fulfillment, right? Because one thing you just mentioned, that you get the money, you get the supercar, but 3 months later you feel the same, or you feel nothing about the car. You know, the feeling, the sensation just disappear, right? So my point is, the actual money or the actual goods you get to buy doesn't give you the fulfillment. But when you are, I'll give you an example. When you are in your computer, working, solving things, feeding your curiosity, you do feel fulfilled, right? Or
I suppose so. It's something I've never really thought about. I don't really think about day to day, do I feel fulfilled or not? I just do what I have to do. And I think fulfillment can also kind of be somewhat similar to happiness. I think there is just overall less fulfillment in society today because of the globalization, where there's just less, you have less of a role in your community because everything has become digital. And maybe there was just more fulfillment in the past because you had a sense of importance in your community. You had a role to play, whether you're the firefighter or whatever you were in your local community. So communities were more localized and people had a sense of fulfillment within their community. And now that everyone buys everything through Amazon, everything is on social media, it's hard to get that same level of fulfillment. So I suppose fulfillment has to do with others having a level of reliance on you. And for me, I'm a complete introvert, so I suppose I don't even think about fulfillment at all.
Gotcha. When I have found successful people and millionaire people, I found that they are mostly people with a really narrow social circle, right? And somehow when you talk to them, you find the same pattern, right? When they were at the point zero, they were like really surrounded by people, a lot of friends. But in the way they were moving on to the top, that circle started going narrowing down, right? So in that sense, how was that process for you, and why do you think that when you get to the top, you are right with really, really few people around you?
I would say it's been the same for me. I've had 0 friends when I started my company, and I have 0 friends now, in a sense that I don't really talk to anybody. I don't check up on anyone. I don't have that mentality of asking how someone's day is or anything like that. I just do my own thing. But I do notice the stark difference of once you accumulate wealth, a lot of people will chase after you, ask for help, or ask for advice, or try to take advantage of you, try to exploit you for your money, ask for investment, ask for money. So for that reason, I think it does polarize some people and make them more closed and kind of just close their shell, close their doors, because most people with money, they have hundreds of people reaching out to them every single day. So yeah, for that reason, I think people start becoming, they're just closing their circle far greater. But for me, it hasn't made a difference because I've never had any friends or anything like that before, and it's still the same now.
So this question is also regarding the game. So as we were saying before, you can set the journey as a game, right? And some people, some successful people, at the end they say, at the end of the day, they say it's not about the money, it's more about the game, right? So if we take that journey and we put it like if it were a real game, right? And that game has levels, right? So you have a level 0 and level 1, 2, 3, right? Until you win the game. What would you say those levels are in terms of your experience, right? So I'll give you one quick example. You were saying that when you started seeing like which businesses or which market were early in its beginning and where you had more opportunity chance. So if we take that situation and we put it into a game level, let's say we can call that level the seek, right? Or the search, right? And then go on. So let's say the second level would be the try, right? Where you try that business that you found on the first level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So based on your experience, what levels do you think that there are within the journey, and what implications are within each of the levels?
I don't personally see them as levels. My only level was where I was initially, where I relied on a job, and then once I achieved that financial freedom. So for me, that was going from level 1 to level 99 and getting the maximum. After that, for me personally, it's actually more headaches, more like as you accumulate more cars or whatever it is more headaches, more problems. And I actually do prefer more of a minimalistic lifestyle. Just I keep falling into that trap of buying things. But in terms of like actual business and strategy, I still think the first principles approach is always applicable, where and those basic principles that I said, right? It's always just about making the most amount of money with the least amount of work. And once you figure out how to do that, then you can scale up on that and until you reach that limitation. So I quickly went from doing maybe $20 a day in sales to within 1 month, I was doing, I think $10,000 a day. No, $8,000 a day in sales, something like that. So I went from pretty much zero to almost $1 million just overnight like that. So the income itself can just highly fluctuate. But initially it is about just that perseverance and figuring out 20 different things, and 19 of them might fail. Maybe all 20 will fail, but once you figure out that one thing that works, you can quickly scale up on it and go from doing $20,000 a year to doing 1 or 2 million a year.
Perfect. So one can conclude, well, for you and your experience, it's just one level.
Correct.
It's level 0, or let's say 2 levels, level 0 and level 99.
Correct for me.
And the key is that if you are in level 0, to find the right vehicle, the right business, like the vehicle which will take you to level 99 with the least amount of work, and then you will, and then to get the maximum amount of money. That's
correct.
It, right?
Correct. Pretty having that financial freedom.
Yeah, that's really practical. That's really simple. Yeah, because sometimes, for example, when you refer to businesses and to business people, and you see that they get with all this shit like the canvas model and establish the how the business model is going to be, what the ROI is going to be, what the returns and all this stuff, and they have the cash flow of the business. You find a lot of complexity around businesses, right? Whereas in your case, it's really, really simple.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. It's there's a lot of dumb people that make a lot of money too. In my space on Amazon, there are a lot of people that just happen to be lucky. They stumbled upon Amazon in the beginning. They were able to make, even if they make a lot of mistakes after, just being early to space allows you to have a lot of money as well. So it's hard to pinpoint one single attribute. And I suppose that's what everyone has been trying to figure out. What is that secret key? But I don't think there is like a single individual key outside of just figuring out how to make the most amount of money with the least amount of work, which for me, in my case, has always helped to be accurate.
This question is this is 2 questions within 2. So it'll be, if you were in zeros today, and you didn't have the skill set you have right now, and you were to start from 0, what would you choose? $1 million cash, or a mentorship with a millionaire, and why?
$1 million. Something that a lot of millionaires fail to acknowledge is their own ignorance. And most millionaires will only shed their experience of what works. But the truth is that there's a million different ways to become a millionaire. There's so many different ways. So you can find contradictions on the internet of 2 millionaires giving opposite advice. So I try to never say, hey, this won't work. I'll just share what works for me or what has worked for me in the past. With $1 million, I can put it into the stock market and the S&P 500, which has averaged about 10%, give or take, year over year, over long periods of time. And I would achieve that financial freedom right away. So for me, that only goal was that financial freedom, because I value my time far more than anything else. So I would go for that $1 million and that certainty than just getting advice from one millionaire. There's so many different ways of making money. Elon Musk makes money different from Warren Buffett. I made money different from both of them. even Elon Musk's advice, he typically says, hey, create a great product and the customers will come to you. He generally is against advertising. But I've had businesses where we've had great success in advertising. So, and I know a lot of businesses, the only reason they exist is because of advertising. So his advice is based upon his experience, but that's not to say you can't take the opposite advice and still succeed. So for that reason, I'd just take the money.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and that's really important for the people watching us, because a lot of people and a lot of early entrepreneurs, let's say, they are stuck looking for the best of advice from people who are in the top already, right? So, and of course, if you go to the internet, if you go into YouTube, you'll find thousands of tutorials from even successful people, like real successful people, and you will find, and each tutorial is a different point of view, right? And as you were saying, each tutorial, it's a different way to become millionaire, right?
Right.
So for what you just said, I can conclude that for you, the best way is each individual do its own experiment, right?
Yeah, and just keep that principle of if your goal is solely to become a millionaire or to make a lot of money, then logically what you should do is figure out how to make the most amount of money with the least amount of work. And even that, there are exceptions where Elon Musk literally found the two hardest things, starting a car company and a rocket company, and he succeeded in both. So you can still do those other things, but he's had other goals, right? His goal isn't wealth; it's to have these create these large projects that change humanity for the better, to make humans multiplanetary. So those were his goals. It wasn't to make money. But if your goal is only to make money, then I can say you should apply that principle of trying to make the most amount of money with the least amount of work.
Gotcha. Well, one quick parenthesis regarding Elon Musk and his main goal right now. Don't you think that the goal he has right now, it's a goal that he made up in his journey? Like, if we go to his early starting point, where, for example, when he started PayPal, do you think that when he was doing, for example, PayPal, he had already that in mind, that he wanted to become the human being multiplanetary, or was that goal made up towards in the way he was creating businesses and companies?
I believe that was his goal from the beginning, early on. I don't think he's cared too much about money in itself, but only saw it as a means of acquiring what he needs to get the job done. So to make life multiplanetary, you need to create large amounts of wealth, which he's doing with Tesla, and that'll help fund his projects for making life multiplanetary. So acquiring money could be one of the steps in order to accomplish your goal.
Gotcha. And from that point and going to the prior question where we were discussing about getting early and that you would choose the $1 million and do your own experiment, go your own way instead of looking for someone else's advices, despite if that someone else had already results, like positive results. So in that sense, if you also were to start from zero, which vehicle would you look for, like right now, like August 2023? What would you do
Specifically?
Yeah.
Probably something in the machine learning, artificial intelligence, AI related field, because there seems to be so many opportunities and it's an emerging industry where one simple automation can make you billions of dollars, at the very least millions. So there's a lot of opportunity in that. But I think even before that, you have to learn to think for yourself, I think personally, because speaking from experience, I've never made money from listening to other people's advice or buying courses. The only success I've had was trial and error, doing a bunch of things. It's not to say that courses don't work, but they haven't worked for me. And I did not rely on courses. So what I can tell you with certainty is you could succeed without courses or advice from anyone. I didn't have any mentor. I didn't have anybody I went to. Would it have accelerated the process? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But it's definitely worked for me, where I just apply critical thinking and that first principles thinking approach to figuring out different problems within my businesses and how to scale. So that's probably the same path I would take.
Always, yeah. So, and that makes sense with one of the really early statements, which was to arrive early to a market, right? So in that case, and also for the people who is watching us, that's really important. If they want to achieve financial freedom right now, 2023, artificial intelligence is the way, right?
I would say so. It's not to say that there's not other ways, but from my experience, from my understanding, that seems to be the path of least resistance currently.
Okay.
Where you can be a one-man team without a lot of money, but just basic understanding. You could create different tools and sell to businesses.
There is a phenomenon which is called the iceberg phenomenon, which is related with the Pareto ratio, which is 80-20. And basically what it says is what you publicly sees from a person's life is just the 20% of his life, right? 80% of his life is under the water, right? As the iceberg is. That means that 80% of your life is your private life, and it's what nobody sees, right? If we apply that to a journey person in his entrepreneurial career, it applies the same, right? You will see only the success, right? You will see only what that made that person successful. So based on that, when people get to know Kevin Thobias, a lot of people wish on Kevin Thobias, want to be like Kevin Thobias, want to have the life of Kevin Thobias, but there are 80% that people is not watching about Kevin Thobias' life, right? So in that sense, I want to refer to those situations to which you've gone through, and probably that they are situations that most of the people don't want to go by, right? So I would like to know what those situations were, if they were one, if they were some or one situation, and yeah, basically pretty much that. Like,
yeah, 99% of my life is just my awake in life, that I'm awake and conscious, not sleeping, is just really just sitting down, reading, or on the computer. It's pretty boring and mundane in other people's eyes. But for me, I find their life to be boring and mundane. That, most people like to travel, most people like to party. Most of those activities, in most cases, I find them to be quite boring. And I've tried those things, partying all the time. I've tried traveling, and I find those activities to be boring. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I find my life to be amazing, where I could just sit home all day and just research subjects that I want to, without having to think about, oh, am I going to make money, or do I have to make money out of it? So I can just ask questions for the sake of curiosity and nothing else. And that's what I spend most of my days doing. Especially now, I just play with ChatGPT all day long, just asking it questions and having conversations and asking it to define complex subjects. So I hope nobody ever hacks my ChatGPT account because they would see millions of lines of conversations.
Yeah.
I ask it everything, but truly that's what most of my days consist of.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that question was related or was made in terms of when people want to go into this entrepreneurial journey, one of the things they most fear is failure, is pressure, being into a lot of pressure. So, and those are situations that they are not really good situation, right? And most people fear to be in those type of situation. But one thing I find about you is like rather than being like not rather than running away from those harsh situation, let's say, what differentiates you from most of the people that don't want to do don't want to do the activities that Kevin does, and they are being completely focused, right? And ignoring the whole society and the whole activities that a normal person would have into a society, right? And that's, let's say, as you just said, going into birthday parties, celebrating the birthday party, different holidays, or going to church, I don't know, whatever. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I find those activities to just be very mundane and dull. So I personally don't like to do those things, and I don't see the point in doing them. And but it also sparks genuine curiosity in terms of I wonder why the average person just blindly does this, or sports. And I can't understand how people just blindly follow different sport teams when they know that ultimately the sport teams, they're all in it together to make the most amount of money. So it's actually all these NBA teams, it's all them against you. They sit behind closed doors figuring out how to take the most amount of your money possible. They're not your friends. They're not here to help the community. Their goal is to make the most amount of money and extract you. You are their customer, so they want to figure out how to take money from you. So it's intriguing to me to see the average person becoming a diehard sports fan where they buy all their merchandise and act as if they have some sort of economical gain when that team wins, when, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to materially improve their life.
Okay. So let's say that the 80%, the other 80% of Kevin Thobias' life is being completely focused in what he's doing, feeding his curiosity, and just being a part of, let's say, general society activities, right?
Yes. I wouldn't say 80. I would say like 99.
89.
Yeah.
99. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so let's finish up with this question. Well, probably from what you just said, probably this question have already an answer since you are an introvert person. But anyways, I would like to ask it as well. There is a number, which is the Dunbar number, and it is 150, right? And according to that number, a person in a lifespan has no more than 150 meaningful relationships, right? So in that sense, what do you think is a meaningful relationship? And and based on that answer, what would you look in a person to have a meaningful relationship?
So it's hard for me to put a set number on how many people, but I would say in general, as a rule of thumb, I think that most people overemphasize relationships, but that is based off of my personal experience. So all my companies, all of the money that I've made, I've never relied on other people or their advice. I've done my own research, figured everything out. Almost all of my money, a large majority of it all came from that. So I don't think relationships are too important. Some of the greatest conversations I've had are with myself in my head, where I debate with myself. So sometimes I sit in the sauna and I just think to myself and I debate both sides of an argument, trying to get to the truth. Because if I argue with myself, I have that ultimate goal of, it's not about picking sides, it's about seeking the truth. And oftentimes when we converse with other people, I don't know if you can have that such high level discussion. And I know it sounds weird because you're just doing it with yourself, that high level discussion, but I don't know if you can have that such a high level quality discussion with others as you do with yourself. So for me personally, I don't think any relationships are necessarily important, but it's about the meaningful thoughts that you have with yourself.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so having said that, I think that should be all for today. We thank you all for keeping up till the end of this interview. Also, thanks a lot to Kevin for opening this space and this opportunity, not only for us, but also for the people who is watching this. We hope that we've given the biggest amount of value to everyone. And thank you very much for being an example and for being an inspiration. Though you may have know that, but you are a truly inspiration for a lot of people here watching us, also for me. So thanks a lot for that. Okay?
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cool.